Hello there, my name is Sir Inshan. I'm a teacher trainee attached to the Sir College of Education, Reading Hope Campus, Home Economics Department. So, this afternoon we will be making Spanish flatbread, and well, for this experiment we will be using regular flour. We will be using margarine, salt, sugar. We have dry yeast. We have 1 cup of warm water. We have vegetable oil that will be used. Oil in the pan, our pastry brush, wooden spoon, our measuring cups, our sieves, spatula, knives, and measuring spoons as well. So, for us to begin, we'll use a large mixing bowl, and into that we're going to measure out our flour using our measuring cup, and we're going to use our spatula to level the flour on top to ensure we have accurate measurement. So we're going to place the flour into the sieve, and then we're going to sieve it. So we added 1 cup of flour, and we're going to add another into the sieve, and then we're going to sieve our flour. So we sieve our flour by holding it firmly in the hand, and we open our hand and we hit it on the inside of our palm. This process of sieving the flour helps to incorporate air into our mixture and also take out any lumps or impurities that may be inside of the flour. So we would have sieved 2 cups of flour, and we're going to add the other 2 cups of flour because for this recipe we will be using only 4 cups of regular flour. So into the sieve goes again another cup, and then we'll be using another one. So you see this here, I didn't get a proper measuring, so we have to redo it again just to ensure we have the correct. That is why proper weighing and measuring techniques is essential when we're in the kitchen. And we'll be transferring it into the sieve, and we're going to sieve the flour again. So once we have add our first set of dry ingredients, which is our flour, we're going to add the other dry ingredients, which is going to be our sugar. And we're using brown sugar for this, and we'll be adding in to the mixture into our sieve again. We'll be adding, that's 1 tablespoon we're adding. Ensure we level the measuring spoons. We're adding another one. We'll ensure it is level again using the spatula. 2. So we add the sugar into our sieve, and this helps when we are baking. It helps to add the desirable browning, and it contributes to the appearance, and it aids to the retention of moisture. Now the appearance, we were speaking about the appearance of the bread, and keeping the end product deliciously moist. Also it helps with the yeast that we'll be adding in later on. Now we're going to add our salt. And the salt, it enhances the overall profile of the dough. It also plays a crucial role in tightening and the glutinous structure, controlling the yeast fermentation and strengthening the dough. So we will add, once we finish with our measuring cups, we place them into the sink, and we're going to sieve our dry ingredients, which is our sugar and our salt, into our pan, our mixing bowl, to ensure consistency, and we have a uniformity of all ingredients. Note we sift to ensure that there isn't any lumps or debris inside our mixture that we'll be making just now. So once we're finished sieving, we'll add the sieve to our sink, which we'll be washing up in a bit. Then we're going to take our measuring spoon for a quick rinse to the sink. We're back, and we're going to measure out our fat, which in this case we're using margarine. And for this experiment, for this recipe we'll be using 4 tablespoons of margarine. Now margarine, this contributes again to the overall flavor profile of the baked goods that we'll be baking today, the bread. It enhances the texture of the final product. It helps to increase the tenderness, and it is making the bread a bit more palatable. And it also plays a crucial role in preserving the freshness of the baked bread, ensuring that it maintains their quality for a longer period of time. So, using the spatula to scrape out all of the margarine that is in the spoon, the measuring spoon. Note at times margarine can be a bit tricky to work with, and sometimes you would find that persons who do not use margarine because they are allergic to margarine, we can incorporate vegetable oil instead, or sometimes we can use vegetable shortening, depending on the recipe and depending who we are making the bread for. So we set aside our margarine. Into the sink we place our spatula. We're going to set aside our mixing bowl, and we're going to open our yeast. And please note we're using dry yeast for this recipe. At times the packet can be a bit difficult to open, so that is why it is important to have a good handy knife around, and just use the knife. And you can also use the scissors. Be careful when you're working with knives in the kitchen. And we're going to add the dry yeast to the 1 cup of lukewarm water, and the lukewarm water is going to help activate the yeast, or what we're going to call proofing. And also we're going to add 1 tablespoon of sugar into the mixture of the yeast and warm water, and the sugar is going to help activate the yeast, and it's going to give the yeast something to feed on, which is going to make it to ferment a bit faster. So we're placing those measuring spoons that we would have used into the sink for wash up. Using both our hands, we're going to start rubbing in the fat or the margarine into the flour, and we use our fingertips only, and we lift. While rubbing in, we lift them just above the mixing bowl height. This process helps to incorporate or trap air into the mixture. So it is important to use your fingertips and keep rubbing the flour. We're not kneading as yet, so you're going to rub and rub. It is essential to know once you get this right, when you finish rubbing, it's supposed to look like very fine breadcrumbs. It is going to look like very fine breadcrumbs. Sometimes this takes a few minutes, sometimes it takes less, depending on the batch that you're making, how large quantity of the batch. So you see, if you look there, it's starting to resemble very fine breadcrumbs. Very fine breadcrumbs. So what I'm going to do next, I'm making a well in the center, And making the well in the center now, I am going to, once I make the well into the center, I am going to pour my yeast mixture into the mixing bowl, into the center where the well is. Yes. So have a look. Good. Set that aside, and we're going to begin working. So we're going to start mixing our flour mixture with the yeast, and we're going to mix it very well until all is incorporated and we got all of the dry ingredients mixed properly. And this is when the process of mixing is when we're combining the ingredients to form the dough. And the reason why we mix is that proper mixing ensures even distribution. It ensures even distribution of ingredients, and it initiates the gluten development. It starts the gluten development, which is what we want. So we're going to start mixing all of the ingredients here. We're mixing it to ensure we combine everything. So we're going to continue mixing, and once we mix, everything is combined very well, you'll be able to see that there isn't any flour mixture, any batter left on the pan. The mixing bowl is supposed to be clean, it's supposed to be shined. So we're going to continue mixing it, and then when we're finished mixing, we'll have to knead the flour, knead the dough as it is. So once there won't be any dough left once it's mixed well. So we're going to continue mixing until you can use both hands or you can use one as well. I just decided to use one, and I use the other one to stabilize the mixing bowl, given the fact that I choose to use a large mixing bowl. The mixing bowl varies of the amount of dough you're making, and it also varies on your stature itself. Seeing that I'm a large person, in height, I decided to use a big mixing bowl that I could handle, rather than me having to use a small mixing bowl, which would be too crowded for me. And all the dough that is stuck between your fingers and everything is going to come off once you're mixing. Once you achieve the mixing consistency that you mix it. At this point, you're just checking to ensure we've attained the optimal consistency, but we haven't as yet. So what we're going to do now on my mixing board, which is a cutting board converted into my mixing board, you can either use the mixing board or you can use a clean surface as it is I have there. You can just clean the surface very well and use that. So I'm going to flour my mixing board, and I'm going to transfer my dough onto the mixing board. I'm going to continue kneading my dough, and I'm going to knead until I achieve the point of optimal consistency. Optimum dough development. This is where we create the gluten structure and achieve the desired dough consistency. This is important to mix the dough properly, thoroughly. Mixing and kneading helps to develop the gluten network, resulting in the elastic and smooth dough. This elasticity, it smoothens and allows the dough to effectively trap the gas produced by the yeast, which is essential for achieving the desired rise and texture in baked goods. Sometimes, if you're not using dough mixer, it has been recommended by some persons you need the dough 300 times. You need it 150 times towards you, or you need it 150 times towards. So if you look closely, you'll have seen that we're achieving the optimal dough consistency, whereby it springs back. When you touches the dough, the elasticity in it, you touch it, you see it springs back. It bounces back, so it forms back the shape. That is to show that we have achieved optimal consistency. So in another mixing bowl, we're going to take some vegetable oil with our pastry brush. We're going to lightly brush the entire pan, the entire mixing bowl. This helps to ensure that the dough, when we place it to rise, it doesn't stick. We're going to place that in there, and we're going to use a paper towel, and I have some warm water, lukewarm water again, and I'm going to soak or damp. I'm going to damp the paper towel with the lukewarm water, and then I'm going to come back and cover it. So I'm off to the sink there, just damping it. I'm sure it is damped. I'm going to take the damp towel and place it over the dough, and this helps to speed up the process of the raising. So we're going to cover it with a clean kitchen towel. We're going to set it aside. While that is going to raise, we're going to clean up our workstation and wash up in the meantime. So now we would have cleaned up and washed up, and the dough would have risen normally. We're allowing it to rise double in size. So as you would have seen, it is doubled in size here. Most time it takes approximately half an hour to 35, so 40 minutes, 45 minutes in total to raise. As we're punching down, we're going to release the carbon dioxide gas, and the carbon dioxide gas is given off when the yeast is reacting with the sugars inside. So our dough board is lightly floured again, and we're putting it down, and we're going to gently knead it up properly, and then we're going to roll it out so that we can divide it into 3 equal portions. Using my knife, I'm going to cut it. You can use a knife or you can use a dough scraper, whichever one is available. And we're going to divide into 3 equal portions. Sometimes it takes a bit of average work to ensure that you have 3 equal sizes. So I'm going to rest the 2 aside on the dough board, and I'm going to gently roll them out into strips, because mind you, I'm making a Spanish flatbread. And I'm going to roll. We're only making it a very long roll it out. So it is getting a bit crowded on the dough board, so I'm going to place the 2 other portions inside. I'm going to roll again. Keep rolling. You can roll it to any length you want, to your desired length, but I'm just going to work with the length of my board that I have. I just check to ensure the size of my baking pan. I'm going to take my baking pan as it is, and I'm going to take some vegetable oil again with my pastry brush. I'm going to lightly brush the entire pan. I'm using a non-stick pan as well, but I'm going to oil the pan. This helps to prevent it from sticking to the pan, just in case. Placing it at the first one is on the pan, and we're going to do the second one. Most of us would have had this practice rolling out when we were at school playing with Play-Dohs. This is a fun activity at home. If you're baking bread at home, you can have your children assisting in this part. It's going to be a bit of fun for them. So we have the second one quickly rolled out. And then we're going to gently plait it. It's called a Spanish flatbread, so we're going to work placing the two overs, then bringing it under, and we're going to try to tie the ends off, or we call knot them off, up again, under, across, over, and down. Be careful to knot the ends out because we want it to seal. And here we have the Spanish flatbread, and it's going to go into the oven. Our oven is already preheating already, and it's going to go into the oven for approximately 35 to 30 minutes until golden brown. Our oven is preheated at 270 degrees Celsius, and we'll lower that to we're going to lower it to 170 degrees. So we're taking it down a notch to 1, and we're going to go and we're going to wash up our workstations. Now we check back on our bread. It's already been 35 minutes. We take it out. It's golden brown. As you can see, it would have risen. It has risen, and here we have it. We turn off the gas, and we're going to transport this back to our cooling rack. And we're going to transfer it onto our cooling rack. Be sure to wear oven mitts when you're doing this because you can get burns. We're going to allow this to cool. Once cooled, you cut and you enjoy however you like. My favorite way of enjoying this is with butter, warm bread with butter, and a cup of nice hot piping Milo. Thank you for watching.